Dustin, thank you so much for this whole last 2 days. You've been amazing. It's so awesome to have you be able to do this for us. And I just can't stop thinking about how we're like a Toyota Prius. I didn't know that we were. So this is pretty awesome. I learned a lot from Tomer, and now I just learned that. So first, Meridian, like big thank you for tuning in. This is so awesome to have you all here. I wish that it was live and that we could do this in person. But I know that we're going to try to do something in person in the first half of 2022. So stay tuned for details on that. But as the next best option, it's been awesome to see you all virtually. So let's get started. Over the last 2 days, we took a deeper dive and look at our work this year and had some incredibly informative debates. The chat lit up about AMM functionality, community-driven initiatives, and speakers. Reactions to hot topic debates and hot topics and previews of our future technical work. And then the energy carried over to this first ever Meridian Doc Sprint. Hundreds of you jumped into Discord to pitch in and bring brand new ideas to life. So thank you for your energy and your passion. Meridian is a really special time. I've said that a couple times because it's when we come together from all over the world to show how local efforts make a big difference globally. For example, when Jose Maria Figueres, former president of Costa Rica, told us yesterday that coming out of the crisis, the world's economic recovery is going to need technology like ours to improve the well-being of people all around the world. Or when Shivani Saroya, CEO of Tala, shared how blockchain infrastructure is going to deliver added value to their widespread customer base in a way that is adaptable to markets. She talked about how in one market, customers may have more demand for a savings product, but in another market, they may have more demand for payments. The flexibility of Stellar and then blockchain is going to help with this, and it's going to help Tala customize more easily for those needs. Or when Alex Holmes, the CEO and chairman of MoneyGram International, talked about our new partnership, sharing what a massive step forward it is for traditional financial payments, bringing a real-time settlement flow for their consumers. And I just have to say, I loved watching the debates today. Talented, knowledgeable folks sharing ideas on how to think about these issues. I loved it, but I'm also a really big debate fan. All these thought leaders across our ecosystem made this theme resonate. So why did we pick this theme for Meridian? Building local to solve global challenges is not just a theme, it's a learned experience. What we know is that the best solutions come from those who truly understand the problems, challenges, and obstacles of any specific region. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. So we need to engage and support and grow local solutions and allow them a global stage to truly bring the financial world together. Building locally for global impact is happening on the ground today with real live use cases on the Stellar network. Here are a few examples of how companies in our ecosystem are using Stellar to solve the unique challenges of delivering financial services in their own markets. This is what we mean by building local for global impact. In the US, we benefit from a fairly stable US dollar as our currency. In fact, we probably take it all for granted. But in Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia, and around Latin America, currency devaluation is a real concern for citizens. And traditional banks in those regions haven't necessarily provided a solution. But blockchain has already helped. Based in Mexico and serving markets across Latin America, AirTM, and you just saw Ruben not too long ago here, created a mobile money app that connects with over 400 different banks and e-money networks so users can send, hold, and receive value in different currencies. The AirTM service has completed over 16 million transactions for 1 million plus members. So users save on cross-border currency transaction fees, get money faster, and are able to keep value in an AirTM international account, safely stored in digital dollars. Here's another example. Moving value from Europe to Asia on traditional financial rails can be complicated, slow, and expensive. So a new anchor on Stellar called ARF has solved the technical and compliance hurdles for companies struggling with this problem. Perhaps being from Istanbul, where cross-continental travel from Europe to Asia is as easy as crossing the Bosphorus Bridge, our founders knew there could be a better way. So now ARF helps connect European anchors all the way to the last mile payouts in the Philippines, utilizing Stellar rails and stablecoins to bridge between financial systems. And finally, we continue our journey east and south to Africa, where local payment provider Flutterwave has started using the Stellar network as an improved method for routing remittances and payments from Europe. Many families in Africa depend on money received from family members working abroad to cover their daily cost of living. Remittances are essential. Fees in Africa remain high, and it can take days to process a payment. Integrating blockchain solutions can be a huge help. And so this fall, Flutterwave partnered with Paris-based Stellar anchor Tempo Payments as a fiat acceptance partner in Europe. Now, customers can make a remittance payment in euros and have it land in their family member's local bank account or be collected in cash in their local currency. This year at Meridian, our theme is about building local to solve real-world problems using a global network. That's what Stellar was created for and what SDF is set up to support. So I always like to set the table before sitting down. And for our purposes, what that means, what I want to do is describe SDF, who we are and what we do, so that each of you can not only engage with us, but can hold us accountable to our words and our work. We're a nonprofit, non-stock Delaware corporation. Not having shareholders is really important because we're not beholden to any person or any group. We are focused solely and beholden only to our mission. We're not a charity. We pay taxes to the US and to the state of California, and we use the capital and assets that we have to make Stellar a success. We have a mandate, and that's publicly available on stellar.org, where you can track SDF's assets and learn more about our grant programs. And all of these assets that you can see on the mandate page are used to achieve our mission. And our mission is creating equitable access to the global financial system. There's a lot of work to be done toward our mission, which is something that is not achievable overnight, but addressed, and it can only be addressed one solution at a time in focused efforts. And that's how we look at our annual strategy work. We also peg our work against our 2025 goal to be the global payment standard, interoperable with the world's financial systems and supporting more and more locally focused applications being built on Stellar. These are both super lofty and powerful, and it takes all of us who are part of this ecosystem to make both of these happen. So a year ago at Meridian, I spoke to you about the cross-functional SDF teams we brought together to investigate areas of highest potential impact for Stellar. And what came out were our priorities. So here's an overview of what we worked on and the progress we made in 2021. Every one of these initiatives was addressed. In some cases, we had super ambitious targets. We had stretch goals that we knew would span beyond 1 year. Some were explorations of the unknown, from expanding practical use cases and addressing liquidity challenges to reaching out for high impact partners and making strategic investments. Our whole team at SDF made incredible progress against these objectives. I want to recap a few particularly exciting achievements that came out of this work. So first, our Stellar Development Foundation Enterprise Fund really arrived in 2021. So after a soft launch in 2020 with a few investments under our belt, the Enterprise Fund made incredible progress toward improving network participation by funding companies that brought new use cases like fiat interoperability, that's Wire, and important services in Latin America such as small business lending, Tribal, and consumer spending accounts with US dollar savings, RTM. And we invested significantly in Tala, a financial services company that exactly aligns with our SDF mission of driving financial inclusion in emerging markets. Tala's millions of users will benefit immediately from access to digital assets for sending, receiving, saving, and spending from their mobile devices. So we're super excited to be a part of Tala's next phase of growth, especially as they implement their Stellar-based assets. So together, Enterprise Fund investments to date total over $70 million in 11 amazing companies. All of this in just over a year's worth of work. In 2020, we set out of doing five times relevant transaction volume on Stellar. It seemed ambitious because back then we were closing in on the milestone of about $100 million equivalent value for the year. So to get 5 times the volume would be $500 million more in 2021. I'm excited to report that for the first 3 quarters of 2021, we're at 829 million in relevant transaction volume, over 8 times what we measured last year at this time. Another way to look at this progress is something that we talked about last year is in the first 3 quarters of 2021, Stellar Network performed over 1 billion operations. So let me put that in context, because last year we hit the 1 billion operation milestone from the network's creation. So that was a few years to get to 1 billion, but we're now doing more than 1 billion each year. This is significant growth. It indicates to me that we're on the right track, that Stellar is providing useful solutions to solve important problems. At the close of Meridian 2020, we knew some of the most important and challenging work for this SDF team would be onboarding new partnerships and connecting those companies to each other to form payment and remittance corridors that could enhance the utility of the Stellar ecosystem. Sending and receiving countries often have different infrastructure, regulation, and payout preferences, not to mention the everyday barriers of different currencies, languages, devices, and time zones for collaboration. But through the persistence and the grit and the creativity of our Stellar ecosystem companies, the SDF teams, and the SDF teams that support them, 6 new cross-border payment corridors were established in 2021. New pathways for payments to and from African countries were established by Tempo and Flutterwave, as well as by Cowrie and Finclusive, and also Tribal, Finclusive, and then fintech company Tribal and Mexican exchange Bitso leveraged USDC to enable new B2B payment options in Latin America. Which brings me to the final 2021 achievement to highlight. You heard Tomer just talk about this a short while ago. Our most ambitious technology initiative of 2021 was kicked off because of last year's list from Meridian. A year ago, I said we would explore the feasibility of automated market makers on Stellar. And on November 3rd of 2021, Protocol 18 was validated and accepted, incorporating AMM functionality into Stellar at the protocol level. One of the earliest layer 1 blockchains to launch AMM functionality and bringing a whole new mechanism for liquidity provision to the network. So we're only 14 days in since the protocol went live. And we're seeing from StellarX, I just checked it before I came on, that over 14 million in value has come onto the network into these liquidity pools. This means more efficient pathways. Notice about 50% of these swaps are now routing through the AMMs for cross-border transactions and the ability for developers to flexibly source liquidity support for any Stellar-based project on demand. So as you can see, this ambitious goal from a year ago turned into one of the most significant additions to the network since Stellar launched. And it all started last year with cross-functional teams sitting down and deciding that yes, liquidity, it's important. And then engaging with the ecosystem proposal on AMMs. It shows the power of an open and dynamic community. And that's what we have here. So now I'm excited to turn your attention to this year's strategic objectives. For the last couple of months, teams have been working to uncover our areas of highest impact toward the SDF mission in 2022. Like last year, as part of our focus on strategy and inclusivity of ideas, we put together a Tiger Teams to focus on 5 topics. So how to increase investment of all types into the Stellar ecosystem, how to ensure that we are creating a high-value, scalable ecosystem, which geographies should we continue to focus on and build in? What does the long-term Stellar roadmap look like? And 5, how do we prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in the growth of the ecosystem? So one of the things that I'm most proud of and I'm most excited about is how each cross-functional group, they took a really holistic approach, looking beyond the walls of SDF, which is truly the point, digging for root causes and trying to understand and address the deep inequities faced by people excluded from financial access. And here's the result. 5 initiatives were committed to advance in 2022. Drive utility, activate participation, fuel ecosystem growth, demand inclusion, and impact policy. These are the findings of the cross-functional teams and where we plan to spend our energy in 2022. So I want to just take a closer look at the underlying strategy and how we plan, at least right now, to tackle each of them. So scalability, speed, interoperability, and bridging are at the heart of our objective to make Stellar the world's most powerful payments network. Stellar exists to solve real-world problems, and so we must connect it to the world's financial systems in the most frictionless way possible. To increase scalability and throughput, we'll be making efforts through innovations like SpeedX, which you heard Tomer and Jeff talk about, improving Stellar Core, and continually assessing potential updates to the AMMs. Tomer's discussed some of these just a few minutes ago, and he went into a bit more detail, but this is going to be a huge focus for us at the SDF, and I'm hopeful for those of you out there that want to engage in the community. We'll create new engagement models to partner with businesses and apps that offer high demand services like lending and yield, and useful feature-rich solutions tailored to local markets. More tools, more wallets, more use cases, more utility. And this scalable network is going to lead to more engagement on a broader ecosystem. So we have an opportunity to leverage the amazing people, resources, and our own ecosystem in new ways. This objective is all about driving engagement. As I was sitting in the chat and I was watching today in some of the debates, some of the chat was about the need for us to engage more. Creating avenues for two-way and multi-part communication and feedback loops that inform the future of Stellar. We will strive to connect with the stakeholders who matter most to Stellar and to meet them where they are. We want to amplify the work of our ecosystem, empower its participants, and create deeper connections. We can be even more transparent, better listeners, and even have some fun with the ways we communicate externally. So I want you to see more of that from us, because I think it's a lot of what you guys have demanded from us. Our plans can take the form of everything from a future forward public roadmap, which we're really, I find this really important, that we need to publish a long-term technical roadmap for Stellar so that you know what you want and can engage with when we're focused on the growth of Stellar. We want to expand Stellar Quests. So it's activating people as ambassadors and advocates in the ecosystem. In short, we want to engage with the world around us in new ways and for more people to know about all of the amazing things happening on Stellar. So with even more engagement, we can build partnerships to create more investment into ecosystem companies, bring more companies to the network, and create even more excitement around these new use cases that are being built. So whether sourcing deals or doing due diligence or helping support portfolio companies, enterprise investments is a group effort. So at SDF, we want to fuel the growth of our ecosystem by expanding the enterprise fund's investment reach and collaborating with meaningful partners in the venture capital space. We also have a keen focus on local relationships. That could mean hackathons that are local hackathons. It could also mean that we're going to focus on some accelerators in local markets. We've already done some of this, but this is room for us to do a lot more. We want to identify areas of impact that might otherwise have been overlooked in emerging markets. And this focus on increased investment will turn into more focus on local building and a more inclusive network. The opportunity to challenge and to improve diversity and inclusion is enormous. We looked at a multi-layered approach to drive inclusion at SDF and in the entire ecosystem. Our plans include direct support of developers and communities to improve financial access in emerging markets, funding specific research to identify local needs. Research is so important in our space, and we just don't have enough of it. And prioritizing growth in underserved regions, and to communicate clearly that we demand and promote inclusion at SDF while proactively inviting participation that drives diversity. Next, we turn to an area that creates clarity for the industry as a whole. There remains a lot of work to be done toward informed policy and regulation, both in the US, but also around the world. Our goal at SDF is to make meaningful connections and have conversations with policymakers and drive toward regulatory clarity for all. SDF is going to continue its involvement with industry organizations and help educate on best practices for regulatory frameworks. And I think most importantly, the key is to use the use cases that that are being used already on blockchain to demonstrate the value of this technology, to speak at the use case level, not necessarily the tech level. Overall, we want to be more vocal, take more positions publicly on important issues, and work to advance an agenda that is consistent and equitable and fosters innovation. So that's our 2022 strategy. It's a whole lot. We're going to push ourselves, though. We're going to continue to push ourselves forward, and hopefully you'll do the same for us. By focusing on these key initiatives, we're going to strengthen our roots and nurture new opportunities for growth in the ecosystem, with the mission of creating equitable access to the global financial system. We're so very grateful to be here, doing this important work with all of you. But before I wrap up, I want to be really direct with all of you about something. Let's get real. Stellar is where it's at. Look, we're in an industry where there can be a lot of hype, sometimes warranted, sometimes not. But I don't want anyone to forget that Stellar is one of the pioneers of this industry. That maturity lends us a lot of credibility we need to help stakeholders be successful. But make no mistake, we're not resting on our laurels. Stellar may be crypto OG, but we are not stuck in the past. I constantly challenge my team to push us in new directions, to act with urgency, to innovate, to be creative, to think of the things that haven't been thought of yet, not only with the technology itself, but with the ways that we as the foundation can support and drive innovation by you, the builders, the innovators, and the developers. We are one of the early innovators in this space, but I'm here to tell you, we're committed to maintaining our position as a leading innovator as well. And I challenge you, our ecosystem, to do the same. We've got your back. We're here to support. So I'll bring the day to a close and our program to an end. From all of us at the Stellar Development Foundation, a huge thanks to each of you. We're very much looking forward to seeing you all in person next time, hopefully soon. So long, Meridian. Thanks everyone for a great 2021.